Folks, the moment we all been waiting for, I have got the guy, the leading expert, 𝗬𝗍 𝗠𝗃. I've had you on before a long, long time ago, man. I somehow lost your number. That's very common for me. But I got to tell you, 𝗬𝗍, you are the guy. Everybody else is having Stephen Greer, Billy Carson, all these people, the prophets of the new age. What's coming? This what I feel is a deception. You agree with me on this. That's why I'm having you on. You're warning people of what's coming. You're boots on the ground. You're an author of the book Further Evidence and the documentary UFO Disclosure. It's a 10-part series. I've watched a few of the episodes, folks. It's stellar. This guy is the guy. You also interviewed the soldier from the Kandahar giant experience, which is phenomenal. You've seen giant bones, correct? You've seen elongated skulls. They've been in your possession. You are the guy. You don't just, okay, well, there you go. Need I say more, folks? It's right there behind them. 𝗬𝗍, thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure. The honor is all mine, and thanks for having me back. It's great.
I have 3 sheets of paper here with questions that is not fit for FluffTube, okay? And I know you've been censored on this chat on YouTube, and it's just the way it is. But I really want to dig deep. I have a lot of questions for you. I was very excited about this interview. I just did an interview with Beck Lover. He's kind of making his waves in the social media world, and we talked about the coming false prophets and who are going to be ushering in this deception. It looks like pure deception. This alien agenda, and it fits everything that's happening today. Mm-hmm. Where we're at right now with the escalation of World War III, with all the polarization within America, the division, it seems like it's ripe. It's ripe right now for a coming Antichrist or a coming alien, a coming alien, this agenda to really take hold, and really be pushed forward right now. And here we are. It's like it's ripe for the taking. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like we are finally there?
Yeah, I think that we are in a window of time which is absolutely unprecedented, and I've never seen anything like it. The UFO phenomenon is real, burgeoning, not going away. It's something I say all the time on a weekly basis. And this thing is heating up. It all starts in 2017 with Commander David Fravor on Tucker Carlson. When Tucker Carlson asked Commander David Fravor, in your opinion, what was this tic-tac shaped UFO that you saw? Fravor looks right at the camera and says, whatever it was not from this earth. That's the game changer. You've got a qualified witness, a trained witness, an F-18 pilot. He's a commander, credible witness all day long. He's not making this stuff up. Fast forward to just a few months back with the congressional hearings, Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina is interviewing a whole, as well as Commander David Fravor, but she's focused on David 𝗏𝗏. And this is mind-boggling. She asks David 𝗏𝗏, who also, again, is ex-military, were UFOs retrieved? He says, yes, UFOs retrieved. Then she does a follow-up question. Well, were there bodies recovered from these UFOs? And 𝗏𝗏 looks right up at her, makes eye contact, and states this: yes, biologics were recovered. Then she does another follow-up question. Were these biologics human or non-human? Once again, 𝗏𝗏 looks right up at her. There's no body language. There's no weirdness. It's not looking away, looking right up at her. Man is telling the truth as he knows it. Looks right up at Representative Nancy Mace and says, non-human biologics. That is one of the major lines, and we've just crossed it. And now Luis Elizondo is being threatened, as well as other whistleblowers are being threatened by the very powers that be, in my opinion, that want to keep this all under wraps and hidden from the American people. We're watching this all play out, but I'll tell you what, in my opinion, what one of the lines, and no one's really talking about this, There's a clip I show now in my presentations. It's AI, and it's a woman talking, and you can't tell. Nino, you can't tell. You have no idea whether that's real or not. And that, to me, there's another line, invisible line, when we became or entered into the nuclear age. That was a line that we crossed, humanity crossed, okay, all together, and we entered the nuclear age. This is something different, because we can no longer discern what's true and what isn't. Truth is fallen to the street, and that's exactly where we are. And you can't fix this anymore. Because of that, because of AI can create anything, and you can't tell whether it's real. So how are we supposed to know what the truth is? We don't know what the truth is, and that's really problematic.
So these congressional hearings with this UFO disclosure, do you think this is all being manipulated or orchestrated at the right time to come out during this time? I mean, because it seems to me like we're like, ooh, we're having this breakthrough, but I believe it's controlled, and people really are coming out and saying, I did see this, I did see that, I know what I saw. But do you think that this is just the correct timing that they want us to have as they push forward with this alien deception, this alien card that I think they're getting ready to play?
It's a very, very complex question. And no one on this planet that I'm aware of anyway is going to tip their hand, to use the card analogy, and show you what the end game is. The end game is the full-blown revealing of the so-called extraterrestrial presence. This is all where it's going. Broad daylight, mile-wide craft over the cities of the world. That's where it's going. The question is, who is really controlling the narrative? Why is there this tension between the so-called whistleblowers and this hidden, players, whoever they are, these actors who are the actors, the bad actors that are threatening the whistleblowers? Well, we don't really know. We're not told. Luis Elizondo knows. I'm sure David Grush knows, but we're not told. So there seems to be this push and pull between what you would call maybe the whistleblowers, the white hats, and the guys who are trying to keep all this deliberately obfuscated and hidden under wraps. That's what we see. On the other hand, this could be a controlled dog and pony show, completely controlled, where they're leeching notice they started with Commander David Fravor, 2017 Tucker Carlson show. Why Commander David Fravor, and why Tucker Carlson? Think about this. Tucker Carlson's audience in 2017 on Fox News primarily were conservative Christians. So they run this thing up the flagpole to see what the conservative Christian, the church-going people, say about all this. Not a ripple, not a stinking ripple. It's a non-issue. Nobody says anything. My phone doesn't ring. Pastors aren't talking about it from the pulpit. It's a non-issue. It's like, what? He just stated on the record that whatever this thing was not from this earth, and you people are still asleep and you're not looking at this. So they keep reeling it out, and they just, to see what the conservative Christian base will do. So far, flatline.
No reaction.
No reaction, which is, let's just keep going up.
Do you think that the conditioning has been placed for the last, if you look at the last decade, and I think even longer than a decade, way longer than that, you've seen Mars attacks in movies, Star Wars, Star Trek. They've been pushing this. I think they've been putting it in the open through movies, commercials, things like that. NASA, I have a lot of questions about NASA. But really the last, I don't know, the last decade has been ancient aliens, they've been pushing that narrative. So I think they've been priming the public or conditioning the public to accept this narrative. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I was on the first 2 seasons of Ancient Aliens, which is why we created our own film series, to push back against the prevailing narrative. These are not space brothers from Epsilon Eridani or some faraway planet. They have a very, very nefarious agenda. We published Karen Wilkinson's book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. She's the tentpole, the main person that we interview in the 4th film in our UFO series. It's on abductions. We have 4 people who were taken. 4 people who were taken. They were abducted. They were taken. One of them was actually implanted. And we show this in our Watcher series. We took out the implant. So for those, with all due respect to people who say that there's no physicality to this, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe they're spreading disinformation. The physicality is absolutely real. It hails back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative, which talks about the mingling of the seed. Whose seed? The fallen angel's seed, the dragons, the shining one, and the 𝗏𝗏, and the seed of the woman. Then you jump thousands of years in the future to Daniel chapter 243, and what do you get? Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Who the heck are they? Who is their seed mingling with the seed of men? The word cleave, and I got this from my friend Jim Williamson, is the same word that we get way back in Genesis, where a man leaves his father and mother and cleaves to his wife. That's a marriage union. No cleaving, no marriage. It's not Genesis 6. It's like the days of Noah. Jesus warns us, but it's not exactly like the days of Noah. So there's this mingling of the seed. They are creating hybrids. We've talked about in our films, we talk about hybrids. In our fourth film on the abductions, these people are taken. End of story. Emil's implant, we took the implant out. We had it tested in SEAL Lab. So it's so easy to sit there and go, oh, there's no physicality. This is all demonic delusion. Nonsense. Nonsense. You go to SEAL Lab and you look at the implant under a scanning electron microscope, and then we'll talk. That's real research. Anybody can say anything and stand up and say, well, I don't believe that. You're entitled to your opinion. But don't tell me that people are not being taken. And these implants, you know, it's an evolution. This implant that we took out years ago was decades old. Emil was 5 years old when he got implanted. There's no entrance wound to where the implant was. And when we tried to remove the implant, even though 2 weeks earlier, we had found the implant, metallic implant, where the x-rays showed it with the ultrasound one in Dr. 𝗦𝗏 office. He was the surgeon. We found it in less than 2 minutes. He just put a little mark based on the x-ray. Bam, there it was on the ultrasound monitor. Now it's 2 weeks later. We try to remove this thing. We can't find it.
So it's able to appear and disappear.
Exactly. Well, it's
interdimensional.
Basically, yes. One prayer, my prayer, the Lord, Holy Spirit taps me on the shoulder in the middle of all this. We have it on film, middle of all this, and goes, you need to pray and you need to do it now. You need to take authority over this thing. I'm in a room full of unbelievers, except for my business partner, the late Richard Shaw, who passed away 5 years ago, just a few days ago. Unbelievable. It's 5 years already. And so I go, guys, this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to pray and I'm going to do it now. I didn't ask for permission. There was no moment of silence. I verbally out loud stated a prayer, and it went something like this. Father, if there are forces which are cloaking this device, I pray that you would break their power and do it soon. You know, in less than 2 minutes, the implant comes back like this. It's way in the back, and all of a sudden it comes screaming forward like this. Everybody goes, oh my gosh, what's that? Dr. 𝗦𝗏 goes, that's the implant. Meanwhile, he's looking at the ultrasound one, tapping it, looking at it, wondering, why is it working now? Everyone in that room encountered something extremely supernatural. And then 3 days later, we were in SEAL Lab. We cut the thing open. We looked at it under a scanning electron microscope. We had it tested. It was meteorite metal. I mean, what's that doing in a guy's leg? I mean, come on.
Meteorite metal. Wow. So there is a nefarious. I've even heard Tucker Carlson say that he believes that these things have a nefarious agenda, that they're
Very
not,
nefarious agenda.
that they are. Could we say they've always been here and the Bible speaks of them? Because they want us to believe that they're interplanetary, correct?
Correct.
But what you're saying is no, more evidence is pointing towards interdimensional.
Correct.
Maybe they're blending frequencies, they're blending dimensions, they're able to enter our dimension, they're fooling us, they're conning us. That's where I'm going with this.
Exactly. And we hold the same view. These are interdimensional entities with a very nefarious agenda, which hails back to the days of Noah, specifically Genesis 3:15. And then later on, Genesis 6, when the seed war completely erupts. People don't get it. You know, it's amazing how, with all due respect to pastors, because a lot of great pastors out there in the trenches, I get it. Most pastors, when they go to seminary, they're not taught this. They're taught the Sethite theory. So when you get to Genesis 6, they completely skip over Genesis 3:15. We won't even discuss that. But Genesis 3:15 is the gateway to the entire biblical narrative. And that's the pre-incarnate Jesus in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve over here, they're terrified. They've just sided with the serpent, the shining one. And Jesus says to the serpent, your seed, your offspring will be at war and enmity with the seed, the offspring of the woman. That's the entire Bible, Nino. It's not taught in the churches. Most pastors don't even know about it. And this, of course, is incredibly problematic.
So when I see those skulls behind you there, and I see, yeah, there you go. Jeez, look at that thing.
This is a model. This is a
yeah. So when I see something like that, and how old is that? What would you estimate?
We did the carbon dating on this guy. This is we call it the baby skull. This was 1,935 years old. And interestingly enough, the lab that did the testing will no longer test our material because they say we are engaged in pseudoscience. Why is it pseudoscience? Because it goes against their prevailing paradigm. They don't want to think that maybe we are looking at something that's genetic, that it's a genetic anomaly, that the seed is mixing, exactly what we see in Genesis 3:15. This was basically a 2,000-year-old mummy skull, which we unwrapped, and then we did DNA testing. The DNA testing showed that this particular individual originated in the Levant, U2E1, basically Eastern Europe, the whole Middle Eastern area. What's that doing in Peru? And of course, the naysayers go, oh, it's contaminated. Well, if it was contaminated, why did 3 different labs, and I won't name the labs, 3 different labs come up with the same result, U2E1? And if we had contaminated it in any way, then it would have shown nuclear DNA. No nuclear DNA, just mitochondrial DNA, the DNA coming from the maternal side, woman's side. This
which
guy,
which we can go back to the Bible, in which she accepted the seed of the fallen.
Yeah, from the fallen one. And here we are.
So I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I really want to get really deep into this. Folks, this kind of stuff, I mean, I know LA, you know how it is. I've got this. We're going to be talking about NASA. We're going to be talking about the Vatican. We're going to be talking about the Greys, Aleister Crowley. I want to go into all of this. And I want to go really deep. Do you mind if we step out to the Nino'sCorner.tv and do this? Because I'm full of
Nino,
questions.
I'm all in. I'm
all
all
right,
in.
all right. I got 3 pages of questions here. And these are something that I just don't feel comfortable with. I want to talk about abductions. I want to talk about if they're trying to attain a soul. And these are things I want to get into. So folks, meet me over at Nino'sCorner.tv. We're going to go eyeballs deep in this stuff right now. LA, where do people find you to get more, information on this stuff? Watch your documentaries. Where do people find you?
Well, if you want to get the hard DVDs, it's 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝗠𝗏𝗡𝗠𝗏, 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏. You can stream all the films. There are now 30 films in our catalog that I host all 30 of them. And you can go to streaming.𝗬𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏net. For $4.99, you can stream any of the films that you see there for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Folks, do your homework. It's time to wake up, do your homework.
The coming deception, it's on its way. It's not coming. It's here. I mean, we're already having the hearings. People are already recording this stuff with their phones. I watch LA. I swear to you, I get my own education watching these trail cams and looking at these cryptids, these things that are you would never believe they're out there in the national forests being caught on camera. I've talked to my friend Steve from How to Hunt, who's shown me footage that I can't talk about, but I saw with my own eyes that is infrared footage, which would be very hard to fake. And I got to tell you, I think it's here. I think they've been here all along. And we'll talk more about that, folks. Meet us over at Nino'sCorner.tv. We're about to go really deep into this subject. You don't want to miss this. All right, LA. I'll see you there.